and the transformation, then we return to that inspiration, hope, and the sort of integration of Punarvasu, which is the nakshatra that's between Gemini and Cancer. This is where the information gathering and the intelligence gathering and the kind of innocent inquiry and curiosity of Gemini becomes embedded wisdom anchored in the heart through the sign of Cancer. So, of course, this is all based on the Sidereal zodiac, which is the zodiac that we use in India. It's accurate with the sky. It doesn't pin the zodiac to the seasons. It pins them to the sky directly, as it is in every Vedic astrology text. So again, there's nothing controversial about this. It's literally lines up this way. And so these nakshatras bridge the rashis, at least 9 of them, and we have, again, this section of where Gemini becomes Cancer is shown by Punarvasu Nakshatra. So we're going to break that out quite a bit today, but I also just wanted people to know, and I just put a link in the box, that if you wanted to get, I've been telling people about this. A lot of folks have already got this, but it says spring and summer 2021. It's actually, I'm going to change this to say summer and fall 2021, because it's an update that really describes in great detail, about an hour and a half, where I'm talking about this section between now and October with the Saturn and Jupiter retrograde cycles. I analyze this for all 12 signs, including yours. And I also analyze how these eclipse cycles, which we just had, but we have the nodal axis is still hanging out there between Taurus and Scorpio, which is influencing and affecting everything between now and October, actually until next year with the nodal axis, but especially with the Saturn-Jupiter cycles moving back and forward. But also Mercury in Taurus and Gemini, which again, that started at the end of May, and we're still in the midst of that right now, of this powerful Gemini and powerful Mercury energy, I should say, which continues until July 25th. So for most of July, Mercury is in Gemini, which of course will be part of this update as well. And so again, you can check this out. I just put the link there, and it's totally free. And again, it's like an hour and a half web class. You just go there and you click, and then you can either watch an instant replay, or you can set up a time to watch this. And I do it this way because it's more of a deep dive training. So again, this is a video that I'm sharing on social media where I talk about a few of these things in depth, but not as much depth as I can go into in an hour and a half class. So go ahead and check that out. It's free. Avail yourself of that. Again, especially it's for all 12 signs. You should really know what's going on, especially between these two signs of Capricorn and Aquarius. These are major focal points between now and October, November of this year, because Jupiter and Saturn, again, now they're in the midst of their retrograde cycles. That it actually started in May, Saturn retrograde May 23rd. Jupiter retrograde went from June 20th. So especially since June 20th, both of these planets have been retrograde, and they're going to be retrograde through October. That's a long time. And again, so these two signs, wherever they fall, is going to be a major focal point for you right now, whether you know it or not. So it's better that you know it, right? That's what we're doing in astrology, is we're learning this stuff. So again, like if you're Leo, it's affecting the 6th and 7th houses, right? If you're Aquarius, it's affecting your 1st and 12th houses. If you're Aries, it's your 10th and 11th houses. So you should really know this. Whether you know it or not, this is going to be major stuff that's affecting you between now and in October, especially. So with that being said, let's get into this. Let's get into this forecast. We see I have Ananda Shakti is here. Hi, Ananda. Happy to listen to you. Thank you. Nice to see you and all of your great work. Green Goddess says, thank you. You're welcome. Age of Aquarius says, greetings. Greetings to you too. So I'm in a greeting mood today with all this Gemini energy, right? So again, this is on the 9th. The moon is today, as I'm recording this on the 7th, the moon is in Mrigashira Nakshatra, still in Taurus. So it's moving into Gemini. There's Trudy. Trudy, you only got a day or so to register for the course. I've been watching you, and I know you want to join, so you need to join the course. You need to join the course. All of you who are listening to this right now, this is the last day or so to join the certification course for this year. You won't regret it. Read the testimonials of the people that have done it. It's well worth it. You'll learn how all this stuff works and really organize all your teachings and focus your attention. So with that being said, it's a great time to be doing that now as well, because Gemini is very much about understanding your place in the cosmos, not just believing in a big picture. Again, the belief in the big picture, that's Jupiterian, that's Sagittarius-like, believing in that things are, moving in a certain direction and having this optimism and hope and wanting to develop wisdom about these things. That's Sagittarius energy, Jupiter energy. But opposite that is Mercury and Gemini energy, which is, okay, I believe it, but how does it work? How does it all work? How do I understand it? How can I explain it? And if you don't know how to explain these things, then you don't understand them. Maybe you believe them. Maybe you have a lot of belief. And most people who wind up studying astrology have just a natural faith and belief in the bigger picture and the cosmos. And maybe they were religious or, spiritual in a non-denominational way, but they always had an understanding that there's this benevolent universe or that things are taking care of themselves and whatnot. But at some point, that's not enough. You're meant to also know, how does it work? And if you don't know how it works, then even those beliefs will wind up leaving you. They will wind up leaving you feeling abandoned and confused. That's why you're confused. Maybe you're not confused that it's all working out in some big way, but what is the way and how does it work? And how do I explain it? How do I understand it? Why doesn't it change the voice in my head? What do all these beliefs get me? Okay, I believe all this stuff, but I'm still the same old person with the same old voices in his head, the same old explanations, the same old kind of stress, because you don't really understand even what you believe. So again, this is the Gemini principle. Gemini is the principle, and Mercury as the ruler is the one that really wants to know the answer. Ever since you were a little kid, you were like, how does all this work? What is all of this? That curiosity of a child is the Gemini nature. It's not enough to just believe. Again, many people who are, quote, spiritual or who think they're spiritual, who somehow have a belief that something's working out and that's, somewhat spiritual. That seems to be, they think that's enough. They think that it's not even possible to really understand and comprehend how all of this is working. Not only is it possible, you must do it. If you don't understand, then you're going to feel lost and your life is going to feel kind of not meaningless, but it's going to feel confusing. And you'll think, okay, I believe this stuff, but I don't know how any of it works. And day to day, we're living in the body, navigating the senses, talking to people, listening to people, forming ideas. We live in that world. And that world is very much the world of Mercury. So again, I'm talking about this in a big way now, because this is the cycle that we're in as the moon is now waning toward its final stages of letting go of the Taurus principle, because the last new moon was an eclipse in Taurus. That was the last new moon. Was when we had the eclipse in Taurus last month. I think it was June 10th. That was the last time sun and moon came together. It was a lunar eclipse. Now solar eclipse. This time the sun and moon come together. It's in the next sign of Gemini. So we're at that stage of the final stages of the Taurus lesson, which is, what is our values? What do you value the most? What is your highest values? And So you've had a month to be really reflecting on that. Now it's okay. Do I want to take those values of Taurus and figure things out and understand the world and comprehend the world through that paradigm of my values? Not the values I was taught, not the religion of my childhood or the way I was programmed to just believe, but what I understand now. And I happen to know, if you're listening to astrology and all this stuff, that your values are probably very different than what you came up in or what have you. And again, feeling comfort in those values and feeling how those values are solid foundations in your life, which is the Taurus principle. Again, this is the lesson that we're finishing. This is the lesson that we're finishing now, is the Taurus lesson, how those values are a solid point in your life. The next thing is, so they're not just something that give you comfort, but there's something that you now figure out and you learn and you grow in intelligence and discrimination as a result of those values. So it's not enough to just feel comforted by it. That's part of it. But now learning and understanding and comprehending yourself based on those values is Gemini. So you can really understand each one of the signs by the sign that came before it, by the sign that comes after it, and by the sign that's opposite. So Gemini is opposite Sagittarius, opposite the faith. Well, Gemini is opposite faith, which says, well, I don't need faith. I need to know, I need information. How does it work? So those two signs check each other. It's after Taurus, which says, okay, I have these core values, but now I want to understand the world based on these values. I want to understand the world, gather a lot of information, figure things out, have a lot of discrimination, not be judgmental and fanatical about my ideas, which is Sagittarius, but I want to understand things by bringing in all the details and really looking at them and seeing everything in the right measure. And then after that, that information needs to be anchored in the heart, which is Cancer, which is that sign of Cancer. So that sign of Cancer comes after Gemini. So Trudy, when is the deadline? The deadline is tomorrow. Okay, so I'm glad you made a note on the calendar. I've been sending emails and stuff, so you're going to miss it. So it's tomorrow. So if you want to do it, then you should do it. The certification course is what we're talking about here. So again, this is why, by the way, one of the reasons why I'm starting it on this day, because I know this is a great time for people to really be learning, because we're at this point where we're trying to understand the nature of the world now. And this new moon in Gemini is really that cycle of, okay, now I'm really aligned with figuring things out and, moving things forward in that way. And so what we're doing right now with this new moon in Gemini, starting on July 9th and for the next month, is that cycle of a new relationship with details, data, information, again, figuring things out, and not just believing things somehow, but knowing how they work. And again, that's what, not just my certification course, but all like sciences and methodologies and whatnot. These are things that are very Gemini in nature, right? They're very much about the literal structure, the details, the information, and how those things inform our beliefs. So this last section of Gemini, which is called Punarvasu, that's that last nakshatra, is right before Cancer, right? And so Cancer is the sign where it comes after Gemini. So you can think of, again, gathering all this information and all these details and this learning and study, but then it needs to be integrated into something where it's holistic, where it's anchored in the heart. You want to understand something also about the sign of Cancer. The heart doesn't mean emotions. It doesn't mean it. It means the heart, which is your deep intuition, where everything becomes unified, where you feel it, where it becomes something that's alive and a deep feeling. So instead of just being information that you've gathered, and again, this is why I talk about things like the snacking and all that. What happens when you approach things that way? This is a kind of deranged Gemini energy, which creates a lot of vata. So it's a lot of details and they're sort of disconnected. And then when that goes into Cancer, it creates a lot of emotional restlessness, a lot of stress, like a lot of wind blowing on the water, creating a lot of waves. But when the information is deep, and focused and elevated, then instead of just all of this information generating a lot of emotion on the surface, which is all of the surface Gemini Cancer energy, the pure wisdom, and like, for example, like what I do in my course, which is focus all of these details, put them in a structure that is organized, then this deep information goes deep into the heart. So now it's not just connecting on some emotional level, where most of the time when people especially study astrology on a very surface level, often it creates often a lot of stress, some inspiration, but often a lot of stress. People just use astrology to find all of their problems and blow them out of proportion and worry about Rahu and worry about this and all this stuff that just really kind of deranges their heart, just creates a lot of weird emotions. That's not what I'm talking about. The depth of Gemini leading to Cancer is the depth of information, good information. Gemini is not just a lot of weird stuff. It's the power of true organized information that's true, not just a lot of data that's disconnected from any structure. So again, this is what I do in my course, is get this information organized and powerful. So then when you take and learn things properly, this powerful information, it's a return of the light, Punarvasu, return of the light. The symbol is like a quiver of arrows aimed at the highest good. Then all of that Gemini energy, which again, the first part of Gemini is Mrigashira, which is related to the deer, which is again gathering and exploring its environment. The middle nakshatra is Ardra, which takes that and is quite like volatile and becomes very intense about pursuing the truth, this relentless pursuit of truth. And then the last nakshatra, Punarvasu, is where we return to the light, this sort of return of the light, and the deity is called Aditi, who is the mother of the Adityas, who are the emanations and the avatars of the sun that have come down to the earth to allow us to build a beautiful life. So the nakshatra deity of Punarvasu is called Aditi. It's like a divine mother who is literally like the mother of the sun and all of the sun gods. So it shows how that stormy, volatile nature of Gemini to want to relentlessly get at the truth. You know, how that after that storm, think of a storm. And after the storm dies down and is finished, then the sky is clear, the air is charged, it's crisp, it's very, the sky is purged and it's very clear. And it renews, it's a return of the light, return of the purity of light and love and joy and wisdom. So it's returning that energy, right? And so that that's the paradigm, just to understand this nature of Gemini. I come back to this sort of childlike quality. The childlike curiosity of Gemini is very important to understand. Much like a child, Aries and Gemini, Taurus is kind of like the child who is like wanting to just kind of enjoy, like the baby that sits around, or the young child who just plays and eats and, is kind of stable. Gemini is like the curious child, but also children are stormy. Children have tantrums. They don't rationally do things. They're not like, well, what's going on here? When they don't understand something, or they want something and you try to take it from them, or I don't know, some other kind of thing, they're violent, furious. This is why you don't give loaded guns to little kids, because they wind up killing everybody if they were in the wrong mood. And it's that's the quality of Ardra. That stormy, like fury, that furious quality is a big part of Gemini. And again, after that is what we have with Punarvasu. And like, for example, even like think of what happens like after a good cry. This is why Ardra also is related to crying, like floods of tears, and these kinds of things are the symbols of Ardra. Think of after that, you have Punarvasu. And that's what leads into Cancer. And so that's where in the sign of Cancer, we literally are connecting to the peace that's in the heart, the stillness and the silence, not the triggering drama, weirdness, not a lot of emotion. No. It can be that if your information is shallow and your information is just, dysfunctional. Again, I use the example of, because we live in the world now of snacking and just kind of getting overstimulated, and we live in a very overstimulated time right now, and that's really symbolic of this Gemini Cancer. Overstimulated and then drawing a lot of emotion as a result. When Rahu, Rahu is now a Taurus, but when Rahu was going through Gemini, this was really this was last year, and even the end of the previous year, this is when we really started to see conspiracy theories going crazy. And again, we see, we take a little bit of information and we take it out of context and we blow it up and distort it and get all worked up. And I mean, think of the stormy quality of all of the misinformation that is now conflated and blown into this like hurricane of misinformation and this kind of cyclone of emotion that has been swirling around. We saw Rahu went through Gemini. A lot of that got even more exacerbated. So this is the real connection between Gemini and Cancer. It's either where we can take information and it anchors us deep into our inner wisdom and intuition and truthful wisdom, or we can just misunderstand things, blow them out of proportion, get all worked up and get ourselves worked up. And kind of lose the thread, like lose the story as to what we're really even doing. And again, just stay stuck in some kind of emotional, kind of revolving door of emotional and feeling like that's actually accomplishing something or doing something. And I'll just speak personally a little bit. I've seen this for years and as I've been talking about, I've had my certification course open for a couple of weeks now. It's only open a couple times a year. I can't keep it open forever because I only want to take so many students at a time because I need to be able to take care of them, right? I'm not unlimited, and I bring a lot of personal attention. Monthly calls. I have a great assistant, Koviana Young, who helps to manage and maintain the forums, and I have a certain amount of level 2 students, level 1 students. So it's not infinitely available all the time, right? But So, but I always have people say, "Oh, let me know when let me know when it opens again," or, "Oh, I want to do it. I want to do it." The same people will say this stuff to me now for years, and and I'll let them know usually, because I keep in mind, okay, if someone said that, I'll make sure to let them know, and they just don't do it. They just like the feeling. It's like this emotion. We just like to keep this emotion going. Oh yeah, that thing, and we get a emotional hit off of it. They just kind of keep us thinking like, oh yeah, I'm doing something, I'm learning, so I'm really learning it. And it's weird because I've seen the same, even, I don't know, it might be 10, 15, 20 people that I've seen off and on for the last 6, 7 years. They're always playing this little game of, they're sort of studying, they're sort of not studying. They're always in and out of like on my videos or here and there. Now I see that they follow a lot of my students who have now, like 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, actually got trained. And now those students are like 10 times the astrologer that these other people are, who are just kind of hanging out in this thing, keeping themselves like stimulated and a little bit not stimulated and emotional. And again, it's just this kind of little emotional game that people play between Gemini and Cancer. They get just enough information to think, oh, I'm learning something, so now I feel good. I'm all emotional about it, and now, okay, but no, I'm not going to really learn. And they never just do it, And again, I'm just sharing. I mean, this is, in many ways, this is how I learned astrology as well. I see it this way, and then I see other people. I do it by observing, and I see it's the same trigger. This is this Punarvasu trigger. It's this inspiring wisdom, but again, it requires some sacrifice, some effort, some belief in yourself, some faith. The thing that I notice about people who do this kind of thing is they don't, underneath it all, I know what's really driving them. And that's why I talk about this kind of stuff when I'm letting people know about the course. Most of it is they don't have belief in themselves. They don't have faith in themselves. They actually don't think they can do it. It's usually the biggest hurdle that people have. They think I can do it. They think others can do it. They don't think they can do it. They don't have faith. They don't have faith. As much as they might say they have faith in me or in the universe or in astrology or whatever, they don't have faith in themselves. They don't think they can do it. And they're afraid to even try. See, because we've been very disappointed. And by the way, disappointment is a huge part of this Gemini to Cancer transition. Very much, just like a parent, a mother can be very disappointed in her children. Most parents, and they don't often admit it, but there's a little bit of disappointment in their children. They're like, oh, you know what? Yeah, they're just people like everybody. And they have to accept it. But when the children first come out, it's like, oh, my child is the this and they're the that, da, da, da. And, the rest of us sit back and like, yeah, it's your child. He's cute, all like that. He's not God. He's a person, like we're all people. He's not as much as you're thinking and hoping and expecting. And the disappointment that also comes with getting excited about something is also a part of this transition from Gemini into Cancer. Think of a child, think of when we're younger and we get all excited about something and we maybe study it, but then ultimately what happens, again, it becomes anchored in our heart, and then it requires work, it requires devotion, it requires love, it requires stillness, silence, all of these other things, which are the virtues of Cancer. So again, one of the things that happens is that, everything is a progression. And the progression from Gemini to Cancer is the progression of how our how our information and our information gathering is creating a feeling in our heart. And that feeling, it should be something we pay attention to. Like, does our relationship with whatever the interest is, and it's not astrology, maybe it's some sort of new social idea, or I don't know, some political thing or this or that. How does it feel in your heart when you relate with that thing? What is the feeling that comes when you study that new thing? Do you feel more connected to your heart, or do you feel kind of restless, like it's taking you away from something deep? Pay attention to that thing that really takes you deep. And go more into that. Go more deeply into that. If astrology is something that does that, then go more deeply into it. and study it seriously. Because the reason to study it is because if you can find anything that connects you more to your true nature, your true intuitive beauty and joy, then you should study it just for the sake of studying it, because it's going to connect you to something deeper. The question wouldn't be whether you're going to do it for a living or what you're ever going to get out of it. It's what you get from it just by the beauty of the thing itself. And that's the reason people wind up actually studying, is because they just want to know, because it's so beautiful in their heart. So these are big questions right now. These are big themes and big issues that are happening right now with this Gemini to Cancer new moon and this new cycle. Let me put this link in there again. I'm going to take a drink and so again, these are very important things to be paying attention. What's coming into your life? Like what new interests, what things that are bringing out your curiosity, what things are there that you know would be, you know, that you actually even love. Again, what are some things in your life that you really love, that really connects you to the heart, that you could study and go more deeply into, and that you know would really help you understand the nature of who you really are. Again, not just what inspires you, not just what is naturally inspirational, but again, Gemini is about the details and how it works and the elation that comes once we understand and comprehend. Again, not just, I believe it all, I believe it's all this or that. That's one thing, but then to actually see how it works and understand how and why it's working is amazing. And that's actually what astrology gives. But we can learn those things in other ways too, through yoga and other pure teachings. Now is also a great time to get into this because we have the Mercury in Gemini, happening until July 25th, right? So again, Mercury in Gemini, again, is a great way to really kick everything off in a very, inspiring and mercurial way, so that right now we're very curious and interested in actually doing these things and learning these things. This is the auspiciousness that I talked about, that from the end of May until the end of July, Mercury is going back and forth between these two signs. So it's been a lot of transformation around these interests and these ideas for the last few months. And so now, especially for this next month, for a big portion of it, Mercury is going to be going through Gemini. So again, it's also just a great time to be learning something new and to be doing these things. It's also an aspect from Jupiter here. And then when Mercury goes into Cancer, he'll be aspected by Saturn. So there's a lot of powerful Mercury energy going, which bodes really well for these Gemini lessons. Of course, the sun is also there until, I think it's July 16th. The sun will be going through Gemini as well. So again, I did my July forecast, and you know that it's really kind of a tale of 2 months, especially the first part until the middle of July. We have this Mercury sun are here in Gemini, big part of that. You see the sun is here to 23rd, so it's like 7 more days, so it'll be on like the 16th. The sun will move into Cancer, then we'll have this, Cancerian focus will continue, but then after July 20th, this Venus and Mars will move into Leo, and there'll be more of an individual, force behind, our mind and feelings and consciousness. But as it stands right now for this new moon, there's a lot of Cancer energy as well. Again, that's the reason I'm also focusing on these two signs. This Gemini to Cancer is huge right now. And understanding the connection between your ideas and your feelings and emotions. The thing that gets us all worked up emotionally is usually some idea that we have. And these emotions then fuel our ideas. So we need to understand and really dial in and get the story straight in our head, and the ideas and the stories that we're telling ourselves about what our life is and what's possible in our life and all this kind of stuff, what's possible for us. why we can or can't do things. There's a whole bunch of possibility right now. And so as we also see Venus and Mars right now are in Aslesha Nakshatra. And Aslesha is a pretty turbulent nakshatra. It's where we have a lot of potential insecurities, particularly as it relates to our desires. And in this case, again, both of these planets are not so powerful here. Mars is very close to his debilitation degree at 27. So Mars is passing through his debilitation. And Venus in Cancer also is not in a very friendly, dignity. Venus is not feeling friendly in Cancer because, again, it's where we become very emotional about our desires, and our desire for pleasure and things like that can get a little, sort of sidetracked. So we might be feeling quite a bit of this emotional stress and volatility right now, particularly, again, as it relates to some relationship issues. And a lot of these things perhaps have been coming up for people, frustration and anger about maybe things that have happened in relationships or, stuff like that. It can really pull you down into a kind of whirlpool of anger and frustration. But it can also really pull you down into a deeper devotional state of mind as well. Because this is the section of Cancer that is very devotional, but its devotion comes when there's a Satwik intention. Meaning, again, Cancer is a Satwik sign, which is related to mothering and sacrifice and selfless love, not the transactional love or the transactional agreements that we have with other adults, like we have in romantic partnerships, but the selfless love, like we would have for our children or for pets or for other things that we just give selfless love to. And I say children, I mean little children, where we have to take care of them. Adult children, it becomes that transactional relationship. So really connecting with that devotional love. And ultimately, this Cancerian pure heart connection is related to devotion, like devotion to God and bhakti. I know myself, I've been feeling very filled with that devotion and that bhakti, but some of it has actually also been fueled by some frustration with some past, interactions and things like that. And feeling that and then going, okay, well, that's what it was. And what was I expecting? That's life. And thank God I have my guru, and I feel that depth of devotion to the guru and guru's grace and that transcendent love that's not looking to be validated or rewarded or even appreciated by another person. And seeing that all the stuff maybe that another person had done to me or their flaws are really just tragic. They're just tragic. And they are tragic. But it's also hurtful and painful when some of that tragedy gets thrust upon you. It's right now we could be really feeling that resentment is what I'm saying. We could be feeling some resentment, some anger and frustration. But the deeper lesson is to be honest with yourself and see whatever it was, your part in it, be forgiving of them. And also, again, realize, for me, I always come back to the tragedy of someone acting so out of alignment with their own heart and with spirit. That's the real tragedy. And as well as me acting out of alignment with it. And to have greater compassion and forgiveness. This is a great lesson right now. And it's actually very easy to come by if we just slow down and chill out, mainly because this Saturn aspect here as well is happening. And this Saturn has been aspecting Venus and Mars in Cancer. By the way, just a quick aside, I've noticed, and I haven't made this prediction, I do have some predictions in when Venus and Mars go into Leo that we could really see some social unrest coming here soon. But I've seen so many, especially Western astrologers, and mainly ones that are like right-wing, been making predictions now for the last month. Oh, you watch social unrest. It's going to come. You watch. It's going to happen now. The elections recounts are going to show people are going to blow up, and then none of it's happened. There's a couple reasons, but one of the main ones is the zodiac. Because we've seen Saturn, and these have been a debilitated Mars, aspected by a strong Saturn that has been holding it back. This isn't Mars in Leo. This is Mars in Cancer. So this is one of those zodiac things where I've been watching and saying, okay, let's see. And some people saying just because it's a Saturn-Mars opposition, I don't know why they think Saturn-Mars opposition is going to make things blow up. Saturn-Mars opposition, Saturn is going to bring Mars, it's going to make it more strategic, not more explosive, often. Anyway, but that's just a bit of an aside. I'm bringing it up because the real benefit here of having Saturn in Capricorn, which again is about being really connecting to the truth of things and having great sensitivity, and especially forgiveness, compassion, empathy, because those are great Saturn and great Capricorn virtues. And Saturn is where we feel the sensitivity and we have compassion for other people's suffering because we've suffered. And if Saturn is powerful in your chart, you know, especially like if you have Saturn in Aquarius, Capricorn, or Libra, then you'll wind up really learning from your mistakes much more easily. You'll wind up having more natural compassion and sensitivity to other people's stupid mistakes, particularly, and even when they hurt you, which they can do. Even when people's stupid mistakes hurt you, you can wind up feeling sad for them as well. Like, you know, it's really a tragedy that you thought that this was going to be something that was going to make you happy. Like attacking me or doing something or attacking this other person or getting in there and blowing things up or whatever it might be. You really thought that was going to work, and it's just tragic to watch. You can kind of have both. And that's what we need, really. That's just when planets get really powerful, we can see beyond just our own like wounding and our own personal, whatever it might be, our own emotional moment, and see it in a larger context. This is when planets are powerful. This is how they operate when they're exalted or they're in their own signs. This is what they do. Even if we feel something that's not good with it, we see a larger context, right? And so the fact that we have Saturn in Capricorn right now, and it's aspecting this Mars that's debilitated also with Venus, this is not a very powerful placement. As I said, it's really kind of ripe with the potential for frustration, aggravation, feeling hurt over past relationship problems or other things like that. It could be kind of explosive, but Saturn there is bringing the potential for greater compassion and empathy. So that's definitely a benefit. Again, what we're going to see in a few weeks is Mars and Venus are going to go here and Jupiter's here in Aquarius. And then we could see some real explosive stuff happening, particularly in late July and into August. Because now we're going to, Mars, I talked about this in my July forecast, is that Mars is going to move into Leo, and he's been building up his frustration because Mars has been going through these signs where he's not been very powerful since the beginning of the year. So by the time Mars winds up going into Leo, he's had it. He's had enough. He's been patient enough. Now he's ready to kick ass and take names. So I'll make an update on that. But that's what I would say there. And so this is essentially what I wanted to talk about here with this new moon in Gemini. Next 30 days or so is really good for doing things like study and finding those things that interest you, going deeper into them, really, finding the pure teachings that connect you to the heart. We're overstimulated now in this world. There's no shortage of a million things that stimulate you on the surface. Again, it's like just eating potato chips all the time and thinking that there's nourishment in it. It's not just that there isn't nutrition. again, it's not a zero-sum game. It's not just that you're not getting nutrition, but you're also getting a lot of poison in as well. There's also a lot of bad stuff in the, I mean, imagine if you just ate junk food all the time, what it would be like. And again, it doesn't mean that everything online is junk. It's not that, but I'm saying even just the habit of just not going deep into things. It's not only depriving you of the depth, but it's also programming this kind of short attention, endorphin. It's like crack, and that keeps the emotions on the surface as well. Trigger. Like we just keep doing, this is our culture now. And I mean, I've seen it accelerate so much. 5 or 6 years ago, even like with my certification courses and when the students, when they would come into the course, they were focused. They would keep their attention throughout the course. It was like a 9-month course. I noticed a couple of years ago, the reason I even changed the format of the course is nobody has an attention span anymore, hardly. It's so hard to get people to concentrate on one thing. And everything looks the same to everybody now. Oh, there's Sam. There's this one, that one, this, that, this, that. It's all the same, it's all the same, it's all the same. Oh, there's this, that, this, that. Nothing is deep anymore. It's a huge problem. And our filters have gone haywire. Like there's false equivalence to everything. And so, again, this is a huge problem in the world. To me, I think it's one of the biggest problems, especially with the way we draw so many conclusions about the world now based on this. No one can research things deeply. We're just programmed into this mindless, shallow consumption. And that creates emotions that are also just as shallow and triggered and disjointed. So you have another option, right? You have choice. You can actually, again, I made a very I made a graphic that really showed that really showed this. I'm going to bring it up here. Actually, hang on a second. I'm going to bring it up here because it really showed what I'm talking about. That really shows the difference between like learning things in a deep way or learning things in an incredibly shallow way. And, it winds up being something where when we have, let me pull it up now here. When we learn things deeply, this is actually from the page where people can register for my course. This is the analogy. So a good analogy is digging a hole, or is digging a well. You must dig one deep hole, not many little holes. So many shallow holes, this is what winds up happening. What people wind up doing, they're looking for truth, but they're digging all of these shallow holes. And it's this very unfocused and inefficient way. Like, let's say someone's this is an example of people trying to learn astrology, right? And they're like, okay, there's this little thing, this thing, this little thing, this little thing, this little thing. And they're not going anywhere. They're just digging little holes, just tearing up the yard. One deep hole is like one focused and efficient effort where you just keep going down and you wind up hitting the water. And so aside from just not getting where you want to go, it also leads to all of these illusions. When you dig all these shallow, unfocused holes, it leads to thinking, this is so hard. Like, astrology is so hard. I mean, everybody thinks it's so hard. I'll never learn it. It's just so hard. Why? And then winds up thinking, yeah, because I'm not making any progress. Or the progress is so small, like you're like, okay, I've got more information, but I'm not really making progress. And you even think, well, these systems and methods, that this doesn't really work. Like, it's so hard. And you wind up thinking maybe it works, but I'm too stupid. I don't know how to do it. Maybe I'm just not gifted. I'm just not gifted because, I'm studying. I'm listening to this video and this person and that thing, basically just digging all these holes. And then you're not even sure if there's water down there eventually. Like, is there even water down there? But when it's one deep focused effort, then you think, well, that was easy. And you make steady progress. And the system and the equipment works really well. And there is water down there. So you wind up, it's a whole different experience. So again, these are the things that are, it's very, it's a great example right now for what we're talking about with this Gemini Cancer energy. This data gathering, like instead of, I call it this sort of snacking overwhelm. And think about this. Think about this analogy. It's quite a good analogy. And the biggest thing that I see is this illusion that people have, particularly this illusion that it's so hard. It's not so hard. Again, I mentioned earlier that I see people that are just kind of stuck in this thing for years now. Years. The same people. Just like, I don't even I just kind of block it out. Like, okay, whatever. That's just your thing. But it's sad because they wind up thinking, that's what I said earlier, that it's really just sort of a lack of confidence. But they're creating the lack of confidence by doing this. Like, we're creating the lack of confidence by the thing they're doing. And they'll see other people now start making deep, rapid progress. Yeah, because the other people that have progressed and have passed them up have done this. They've done this. They've gotten, let's say, trained. And again, I see it through my world, through my certification course and whatnot. Students who've never learned anything. They just say, okay, I want to try it. And they wind up going 100 miles past the people that are still just stuck doing this and creating the impression that they're lost, or that they can't do it, or that it's too complicated. So again, it's up to everybody to live their own life and do their own thing. All I can do is put it out there and say, you want to do it? You want to try it? If you want to try it, I got a program where you can try it. So, but again, this is a big thing that we're all dealing with now. So I'll put this link in here the last time. And you can check that out. That's this web class for all 12 signs, including yours, and see how that works for you. And I'll leave it at that. You have a good one.